Toma stood outside the cafe with sweaty hands and a fast-beating heart. The building wasn't fancy, but it had glass walls and floating lights that made it look like something out of a storybook. Around him, the city buzzed with people, humans and aliens alike, walking through the spaceport streets of Avon 4. Hoverbikes zipped by. Robots rolled across sidewalks, and the smell of sweet spices filled the air. He checked his reflection in the glass. His shirt was clean, his hair brushed, and his boots freshly polished. That was the best he could do. Toma wasn't rich, and he wasn't trying to be someone he wasn't. He was just nervous. It was his first blind date. His friend Relo had set it up. "She's kind, smart, and a bit shy," Relo had said. "You'll like her." Now standing in front of the cafe, Toma hoped Relo was right. He stepped inside. Soft music played in the background. A few customers sat at small round tables, sipping glowing drinks or chatting quietly. The air was cool, and the lights floated gently near the ceiling, changing colors slowly from blue to green. Toma looked around. His date said she would be wearing a white scarf. And there near the window sat a woman with dark hair and a white scarf, staring out at the sky. He smiled, walked over, and nervously cleared his throat. "Hi, I'm Toma," he said, trying to sound confident. The woman turned and looked at him with calm, curious eyes. For a moment, she didn't say anything. Then she gave a soft smile and said, "Hello, Toma. Please sit." He pulled out the chair and sat down. "Sorry if I'm a bit early," he said. "I just didn't want to make a bad first impression." She chuckled. "You're just on time." They ordered drinks. Toma asked for mint tea with honey, something simple. The woman ordered a starfruit blend, something he had never tried. She seemed quiet but not cold, just thoughtful. "So, what do you do?" Toma asked, trying to start the conversation. "I work with trade routes," she said, picking up her drink. "It's a lot of planning and messages, like navigation?" "Sort of," she said, "but more behind the scenes. Paperwork, permissions, things like that." Toma nodded. "That sounds important." She smiled again. "Sometimes. What about you?" He sat up straighter. "I work in the shipyards, near Dock 3. I fix engine systems, power cores, cooling pipes, the messy stuff." "That sounds more useful than trade routes," he laughed. "Only when things break." She leaned forward, slightly interested. "Ever fix anything strange?" Toma's eyes lit up. "Once, a freighter came in with its fuel line tied together using clothes hangers, real hangers. The pilot said it worked fine for 3 jumps. I don't know how the ship didn't explode." She laughed, a soft, warm sound. "That's impressive and terrifying." They talked more. Toma told her about growing up in the lower levels of the city, helping his uncle fix broken drones. She told him about her love for star maps and old books. He liked that she listened, really listened. And when she spoke, her voice was calm and thoughtful, like she picked her words with care. Time passed quickly. Toma felt something he hadn't felt in a long time, comfortable. Then the cafe door opened again. A woman stepped inside, looked around, and called out, "Toma?" He turned. The woman was smiling and waving. She was wearing a silver jacket and holding a small bag. She looked nothing like the person he was talking to. His heart sank. "Oh no," he whispered. He turned back to the woman in the white scarf. I think I sat at the wrong table." She raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. "Did you? I thought you were my blind date. You had the white scarf and everything." She chuckled. "I guess it was an honest mistake." Toma stood up, embarrassed. "I'm really sorry. I should have asked." "It's all right," she said kindly. "I enjoyed the talk." He hesitated, then smiled. "Me too." He walked over to his actual date. The woman seemed nice, but something felt off. The conversation didn't flow. The silences were long and awkward. She didn't laugh at his jokes. She didn't seem interested in engines or spaceports. Toma did his best, but it was clear they didn't match. When the awkward meal ended, Toma stepped outside, thinking about the woman in the white scarf. He felt silly. How could he enjoy talking to a stranger more than the person he came to meet? As he turned to leave, a voice called out, "Toma?" He looked up. It was her, the woman in the scarf, standing near the corner, holding a small silver chip in her hand. "I thought you might want this," she said, "in case you ever want to talk about plasma leaks again." He took the chip, surprised. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," she said. "Sometimes mistakes lead to better stories." She smiled, gave a small wave, and walked away into the evening crowd. Toma stared at the chip for a long moment. Maybe sitting at the wrong table wasn't so wrong after all. Toma sat at his workbench the next morning, but his hands moved slowly. Normally, he could fix a cooling pipe in 10 minutes, but today, he kept getting distracted. His mind wasn't on the tools in front of him. It was on the woman in the white scarf. He didn't even know her name. He looked at the small silver chip in his pocket again. He hadn't used it yet. It was a contact chip. All he had to do was plug it into his cum and send a message. But what would he even say? "Hi, I sat at your table by mistake. Can we talk again?" It sounded strange. Still, she had given it to him. She wanted him to use it. His coworker Relo came by and clapped him on the shoulder. "You look like your brain left orbit," he joked. Toma gave a small smile. "Just thinking." Relo laughed. "Thinking about your date? How'd it go?" Toma hesitated. "It was okay." "Just okay?" Relo asked, surprised. "Come on, man, I thought she'd be perfect for you." "Well," Toma said, rubbing the back of his neck, "I kind of sat at the wrong table first." "Talked to the wrong person for almost half an hour." Relo blinked. "You what?" "She had a white scarf, just like the message said." Relo shook his head, laughing. "Only you could go on a date and start it with the wrong person." "Yeah," Toma said quietly, "but she was nice." That evening, Toma sat in his small apartment. The city outside was glowing with soft lights. He finally took the chip, slid it into his cum device, and sent a simple message. "Hi, it's Toma, the guy who sat at the wrong table. I hope you're doing well." He stared at the screen for a while, not sure if she'd reply. 10 minutes later, a soft beep made him jump. "Hello, Toma. I'm doing well. I'm glad you wrote." That was it. But something about her message made him smile. She didn't sound angry or distant. She sounded warm. They chatted a little more. Simple things: work, weather, favorite food. Nothing deep, but it felt easy, comfortable. She said her name was Lena. A few days later, they met again. This time on purpose. Lena suggested a walk through the Avon 4 Market stretch, a long open-air street filled with food stalls, music, and strange alien gadgets. It was busy, noisy, and full of color. Floating signs advertised glowing fruit and tiny dancing robots. Children ran past with light balloons, and street performers played soft music on alien instruments. Toma wasn't sure it was the best place for a second meeting, but Lena seemed relaxed and happy. "I come here when I need to clear my head," she said. "You like crowds?" Toma asked. "Not always," she said. "But I like watching people. Everyone is so busy living. It's like the whole city is breathing." Toma looked around. He'd passed through this market 100 times, but he had never really seen it like that. As they walked, Lena greeted a few people. A merchant with 3 eyes waved at her. A robot guard nodded politely. Even a small alien child tugged at her sleeve and handed her a paper flower. "You know a lot of people," Toma said. Lena smiled softly. "I guess I do." They stopped at a small food stall and ordered fried starfruit slices. Toma had never tried it before, but it was sweet and warm. He made a face after the first bite, and Lena laughed. Too sweet for you? She asked. Like biting into candy fire, he said. Laughing. They sat on a bench near the edge of the market, watching. The lights changed as the sky darkened. The stars were just starting to appear. Do you believe in luck? Toma asked suddenly. Lena turned to him. What kind of luck? Like, the kind that makes someone sit at the wrong table and meet someone they weren't supposed to. She looked at him for a moment, then said, maybe it wasn't the wrong table at all. He looked at her, and for a moment, the noise of the market faded. Her eyes were calm, like quiet water. Why did you let me sit with you? He asked. You looked nervous, she said. And kind. I thought, why not? That simple? Sometimes simple things are the best. Later that evening, Lena took Toma to the top level of a nearby building. There was a garden there open to the public, but not many people knew about it. Trees with glowing leaves swayed in the soft breeze. A clear dome above showed the stars and the space traffic ships moving like fireflies in the sky. Toma stood quietly. Looking up, I've always wanted my own ship, he said softly. Not to leave forever, just to explore. Fix something of my own. Fly it with someone I trust. Lena said nothing, but her hand brushed his for a second before pulling away. I think you will, she said. You're the kind of person who builds things that last. Toma turned to her. You don't really talk about yourself much. She smiled, but it was a quiet smile. Maybe one day I will, for now. I like hearing about your world. They stood in silence for a while. Above them, a large ship passed through the atmosphere, leaving a soft glow in its wake. Toma walked home later that night, with a strange feeling in his chest. He wasn't sure if it was happiness or confusion, but it felt real. He didn't know who Lena really was, but he knew he wanted to find out. A week had passed since Toma and Lena last met. He hadn't stopped thinking about her. She was different from anyone he had known. Kind, calm, curious, but there was also something quiet and mysterious about her. She listened more than she spoke. And when she did speak, her words stayed with him long after she was gone. One bright afternoon, a message from Lena blinked on Toma's device. If you're free, meet me at the edge of the sky park. There's a place I want to show you. Toma's heart beat a little faster. He quickly cleaned the grease off his hands, put on his best jacket, and left his small apartment. The sky park was on one of the higher platforms of Avon, a place full of trees, water pools, and walking paths. From up there, you could see most of the city and even the edge of the landing fields. The sky was a soft blue, and small glider birds flew between buildings. Lena was waiting near a wide stone path, wearing a simple green coat. Her scarf was gone today, and her dark hair moved gently in the wind. You came, she said. Of course, Toma smiled. They started walking side by side. The path took them through quiet gardens and curved bridges. Along the way, Lena asked him questions. What kind of ship he wanted to build, what he liked about engines, how he learned to fix things. I never went to school, Toma said. Not a proper one. I learned with my uncle, fixing old machines. I used to take apart everything I could find. Even broke a food heater once just to see how it worked. Lena laughed softly. Did you fix it? Eventually, he grinned. But we had cold meals for 2 days. They passed a small group of children playing with floating toys. One of the children, a tiny girl with gold tattoos on her arms, ran up to Lena and hugged her leg. Lena, the girl said cheerfully. Lena smiled and knelt down. Hello, Mina. Are you being good today? The child nodded. A woman nearby, maybe the girl's mother, bowed slightly to Lena. Toma noticed it. Not just a wave or a nod, but a respectful bow. As they continued walking, more people greeted Lena. A robot carrying garden tools gave her a gentle beep and a bow. An old alien shopkeeper waved from a corner with both hands. Even the security drone hovering above turned and gave a flash of blue light, its version of a polite greeting. You Know a lot of people here, Toma said, trying not to sound too surprised. Lena just smiled. I come here often. They reached the edge of the platform, where a long bench overlooked the city. Far below, ships flew in and out of the docks. People looked like tiny ants on the streets. I like this spot, Lena said, sitting down. It reminds me how small we are, but also how much we can do, even when we're small. Toma sat beside her. You talk like someone who's seen a lot. She looked at him for a moment, then nodded. I've seen enough to know that money, power, and ships don't always bring peace. But real people, honest people, they matter more than anything. Toma looked away, thoughtful. I don't have much, he said quietly. No big home, no degree, just tools and old dreams. And yet, Lena said, you smile more than most rich people I've met. Toma looked back at her. You talk like you know rich people well. She paused, then said, I do. But they don't know me very well. There it was again, that quiet mystery. Who are you really, Lena? He asked softly. She turned to him, her voice gentle. I'm someone who's tired of people only seeing what they expect to see. With you, I can just be. Toma didn't push. He respected that. But a small part of him still wondered. They sat in silence for a while, just watching the sky. Ships passed overhead, their lights blinking. A giant freighter, shaped like a whale, moved slowly toward the upper docks. Do you think you'll ever leave this city? Lena asked. Maybe one day, Toma said. If I build my own ship, I'd like to travel. Not far, just somewhere new. I want to fly by my own hands. Not just repair things for others. I think you will, she said. You're the kind who makes things happen, Toma smiled. Coming from you, that means a lot. Lena stood up and looked toward the stars. There's something freeing about space. It's full of silence, but also full of stories. She turned back to him. Thank you for today, Toma. For what? He asked. For being real. With that, she gently touched his shoulder, then walked away into the fading light of the sky park, leaving him with a warm feeling in his chest. Later that night, Toma lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling. The city outside was quiet. Ships blinked in the sky. His small room smelled like metal and oil, but for once, it felt peaceful. He didn't know everything about Lena, but something told him he didn't need to, not yet. She was walking her own path, and somehow their paths had crossed by accident, or maybe by something more. Toma's hands moved quickly as he fixed a broken coolant valve on a trade ship in Dock 3. Sparks flew, tools clicked, and sweat rolled down his face. But his mind was not on the valve. It was on Lena. They had met 3 times in the past 2 weeks, walks through the park, quiet talks near the docks, and even one visit to a small art hall where alien music played through lights. Every time they spoke, Toma felt closer to her. But still, something about her didn't add up. She spoke with calm confidence. She moved like someone who belonged in every place. And people respected her too easily, too deeply. Toma shook his head and focused on the work. Hey, daydreamer, said Mako, his co-worker, poking his side with a wrench. You look like your brain took a lunch break. Toma grinned. Just thinking. About that mystery girl, right? Toma didn't answer, but the smile on his face said enough. Be careful, Mako added. Sometimes the quiet ones have the biggest secrets. 2 hours later, as the sun dipped low over Avonfor, Toma heard a soft voice behind him while he wiped his hands. Toma. He turned, surprised, and smiled. Lena stood near the edge of the repair bay. But today, something was different. She wasn't wearing her usual soft coat or plain clothes. Instead, she wore a dark formal suit with a small silver crest near her shoulder. Her posture was taller, her expression serious, and her voice firmer. The room changed around her. Workers stopped moving. One of the security bots turned and stood at attention. Even Toma's boss, Foreman Darn, hurried out from his office. Looking nervous. Lady Lena, the foreman said quickly, bowing his head. "We weren't told you'd visit." "Shall I call for a cleaner or arrange?" "No need," Lena said calmly. "I'm just here to see someone." She walked past the foreman and stopped in front of Toma. Toma blinked. "Lady?" Lena sighed. "I was going to tell you. I just didn't know how." Toma looked around. Every worker in the bay was watching. He stepped aside with her to a quiet corner, behind a half-finished cargo shuttle. "What's going on?" he asked. Lena took a deep breath. "My full name is Lena Rin Alin. My family runs the Rin Enclave Corporation. We manage most of the energy, shipping, and docking across the sector." Toma stared at her, confused. "You mean you're a millionaire?" She gave a small smile. "More than that, technically, but yes." Toma stepped back. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because people treat me differently when they know. They want things. They act fake. But you talked to me like a person. You joked with me. You didn't try to impress me." Toma looked down. "Maybe I should have." "No," she said quickly. "That's what I liked. You were real." Toma didn't know what to say. The woman he thought he knew was someone much bigger than he imagined. He remembered the way people bowed to her. The robot guards, the quiet respect. It all made sense now. "I don't understand," he said finally. "If you're so important, why talk to someone like me? I'm just a ship worker. I live in a room above a shop. I eat noodles 5 times a week." Lena looked at him gently. "And you're kind, brave, funny. You fix things. You don't pretend. That's rare." Toma gave a short laugh. "I thought you were a translator." "That's my fault," Lena said. "I didn't lie. I just let you believe what you wanted." He shook his head, trying to think. "You gave me that ship. You walked with me through markets. You climbed a rooftop with me to watch the sky. And all this time, you were someone else." "I was still me," she said softly. "Just not all of me." Toma looked at her for a long moment. He didn't feel angry, just small. "I don't need your money," he said quietly. "I know," she said. "That's why I trust you." There was a pause. Then she reached into her coat and pulled out a small crate the size of a lunchbox. She opened it slightly to show what was inside. Toma's eyes widened. Inside were rare ship parts, old models, nearly impossible to find. Power cables made of gold steel. A navigation chip from a deep space scout. Things he had dreamed of collecting for years. "These are for your ship," Lena said. "Not a gift, a trade. I believe in what you want to build." Toma closed the box slowly. I don't know if I can accept this." "You don't have to," Lena said. "But I want to be part of something real. And I think your dream is real." She turned to leave. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner," she added. "But if you ever want to talk again, you know how to reach me." Then she walked away, leaving Toma standing there with the box in his hands and a storm of thoughts in his heart. That night, Toma sat in his room, the crate on the table in front of him. He hadn't opened it again. He kept replaying her words in his mind. "You were real. That's why I trust you." He didn't know what to do. A part of him wanted to be angry. Another part was deeply moved. But one thing was clear. Lena wasn't just a rich girl with secrets. She was honest in her own quiet way. She didn't brag. She didn't show off. And she didn't expect anything from him. She simply showed up. Toma looked out the window at the sky above Avon 4. Stars blinked beyond the towers. Ships flew in every direction. And somewhere out there, Lena was watching the same sky. He didn't know what would happen next, but he knew he would see her again. The night was darker than usual. Thick clouds covered the stars above Avon 4. Lights from the city struggled to shine through. The air smelled different, like something sharp and burning. Toma was at Dock 3, working late with a small team. They were testing the fuel lines of an old delivery ship. Music played quietly from a speaker, and tools clinked under steady hands. Everything seemed normal. Until the alarms began. A loud siren echoed through the shipyard. Red lights flashed above the doors. Workers froze. A robotic voice filled the air. Warning. Fire detected in Dock 2. All units evacuate immediately. Toma dropped his tool and looked up, heart racing. Dock 2 was nearby. Very nearby. He rushed outside and saw smoke rising in the distance. It wasn't a small accident. This was something big. Flames danced against the windows of the upper service rooms. Workers shouted. Robots moved to contain the fire, but it was spreading fast. Then he heard a voice yelling through a comm device. VIP caught in viewing bay. Locked in. System override failed. Toma's eyes widened. Lena. She had told him earlier she had a short visit planned to review some new trade ships. She said she would stop by Dock 2 just before the sunset. He didn't think twice. He ran. Dock 2 was chaos. Flames climbed the walls. Smoke choked the air. Security bots were trying to open the emergency doors, but the fire system had failed. Some doors were sealed shut by heat or power surges. Everyone was shouting at once. Toma pushed through the crowd. "Where's the viewing bay?" A guard tried to stop him. "Sir, you can't go in there. My friend is inside," Toma shouted. The guard hesitated. Then pointed. "Far end. Upper level. East wing. But it's blocked." Toma didn't wait. He knew these docks better than most. He'd worked here for years. He knew the side passages, the broken ladders, and the half-finished tunnels behind the walls. He grabbed a toolkit and a mask from a supply box, then slipped into the side access hallway. Heat pressed against him like a wall, but he didn't stop. He crawled through a narrow shaft filled with smoke. The metal was hot under his hands. Sparks rained from a busted pipe. Somewhere above, something exploded. He reached a corner where the wall had cracked open. Below him, he saw the viewing bay flames licking at the edges. And inside, behind thick glass, was Lena. She was trapped. She saw him and pounded on the glass. "Toma!" Her voice was faint through the noise, but her face was clear, scared, but strong. Toma looked around. The door controls were melted. The emergency power was gone. He opened his toolkit with shaking hands. "You better be right about this," he whispered to himself. He pulled wires from the wall. Sparks jumped. He rewired the backup panel, guessing which cables still had power. His fingers burned, but he kept going. Then dash clicked. The glass door slid open a few inches. "Lena, crawl!" he yelled. She dropped low and pulled herself through the smoke toward him. As soon as she reached the opening, he grabbed her hand and pulled her into the side tunnel. Together, they crawled back, coughing and sweating, the fire roaring behind them. Once they were out and back in open air, Lena fell to her knees, gasping. Toma dropped beside her, breathing hard. His shirt was burned in places. His arms were covered in dust and ash. "Are you okay?" he asked. She nodded, coughing. "Yes, thanks to you. Medics ran over." They checked Lena, then looked at Toma. "You're lucky," one said. 10 more minutes and Toma didn't need the rest of the sentence. Later at the med bay, Toma sat beside Lena's bed. She had light burns on her arms, but nothing serious. Her hair was messy and her face pale, but her eyes were as calm as ever. "You could have died," she whispered. "So could you," he replied. Lena looked at him. "Why did you come for me?" "You could have left. Saved yourself." Toma didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Because I don't run from people I care about." Lena's eyes softened. "I tried to stay away after what happened," she said. "I thought maybe you'd be better off without my world mixing into yours." Toma shook his head. "Your world is part of who you are. I just needed time to understand it." She reached for his hand. He held it. "You saved me," she said quietly. "You saved me first," he replied. Not from fire, but from feeling. Like I didn't matter. There was a long silence between them, filled only with the soft hum of the med bay lights. Finally, Lena spoke again. Still want to build that ship? Toma smiled, more than ever. She squeezed his hand, then. Let's make it the strongest one in the stars. The sky above Avon 4 was filled with gray clouds. The air was thick and something didn't feel right. Toma was working late in Dock 3, as usual, his hands deep inside a ship's engine. The metal was warm under his fingers, and the sound of machines helped him forget his worries for a while. But tonight, something felt different. Suddenly, a loud alarm rang through the dock. Red lights began to flash. Workers stopped what they were doing. A robotic voice spoke over the speaker. Emergency. In Dock 2. Fire detected. All workers evacuate the area. This is not a drill. Toma's heart jumped. Dock 2. He quickly wiped his hands and ran out to the yard. Smoke was already rising from one of the buildings nearby. People were rushing out, coughing and shouting. Security bots flew in, trying to control the fire. Flames danced in the windows of the upper level. Toma's eyes searched the crowd. He remembered what Lena had said just a few hours ago. I'll be at Dock 2 today. There's a new ship I want to inspect before it launches. He ran to the nearest guard. Is there anyone still inside? The guard shouted back. A VIP guest is stuck in the viewing room. The door system is locked. We can't get her out. Toma's stomach turned. Lena. Without thinking. He grabbed a breathing mask from a safety box and ran toward the fire. Dock 2 was hot and smoky. Lights were blinking, and the heat was growing stronger by the second. Toma knew this place well. He had worked here before. He remembered a small back hallway behind the main viewing room. It was once used for maintenance, now mostly forgotten. He moved fast, holding his breath as he climbed a narrow metal ladder and pushed open an old service door. Smoke poured out, and sparks flew from broken wires above him. Still, he didn't stop. When he reached the viewing room, the glass was covered in soot. He could barely see through it, but then he caught a shape, a hand hitting the window from inside. It was Lena. She was trapped. Toma! She shouted, her voice faint through the thick glass. He didn't answer. He was already opening his toolkit. The door panel was melted and the screen was dead, but he still tried. He opened the side of the wall, found the emergency wires, and started working. His hands were shaking and the heat was burning his skin, but he didn't stop. He had to get her out. After a few long minutes, there was a sharp sound click and the glass door opened just a little. Lena, crawl through, he yelled. She dropped to the floor and pulled herself through the small gap. He grabbed her arm and helped her out. They didn't stop to speak. The fire was behind them now, growing louder and brighter. Together, they ran back the way he came, through the smoke, the sparks, and the danger, until they finally reached the cool air outside. Medics rushed to them with water and oxygen masks. Toma dropped to the ground, coughing hard. Lena was beside him, also breathing fast but safe. One of the medics said, "You were lucky. That room was close to collapse." Toma looked over at Lena. Her face was tired and blackened by smoke, but she was alive. She turned her head and whispered, "You came for me." He nodded slowly. "Of course I did. You could have stayed away. You didn't have to risk everything." "I don't leave the people I care about," he said. They were taken to the medical center for rest. A few burns, some smoke in the lungs, but nothing too serious. Still, the moment stayed heavy in Toma's heart. Later that night, when the building was quiet and the lights were dim, Toma sat beside Lena's bed. She looked at him with tired eyes. "You didn't just save me," she said softly. "You reminded me what it feels like to be seen, not as a name, not as a title, but as a person." Toma looked at the bandage on his arm and then back at her. "You were always a person too. Me, Lena, from the very first day." I just didn't know how big your world really was, she smiled. I was scared you'd walk away when you found out. I was scared too, he admitted. I didn't know where I fit in your world. I didn't want to be someone you felt sorry for. You're not, she said. You're the only one who didn't treat me like I was different. You made me laugh. You made me feel like I belonged. There was a silence between them. A warm one. A peaceful one. Toma leaned forward and asked, "Do you still want to help me build the ship?" Lena nodded. "Yes, more than ever." "I don't want it to be your gift," he said. "I want it to be ours. Something we build together. Something that belongs to both of us." She reached out and gently took his hand. "Then let's do it," she said, "together." And in that moment, with the fire behind them and the stars waiting above, something strong was built, not just between metal and wires, but between two hearts that found each other by mistake and chose not to let go. A few weeks had passed since the fire. The skies above Avonfor were clear now, as if they too had waited for something special. The city moved on like always. Ships flew across the towers, workers filled the docks, and machines hummed with their daily rhythm. But in a quiet hangar far from the noise, something new was coming to life. Toma stood inside the hangar, looking up at the ship they had built together. It wasn't big. It wasn't perfect. But it was beautiful. Silver wings stretched out like arms ready to fly. The body was made from recycled parts, some old, some new, some gifted, some earned. The engine was small but powerful. On the side, painted in soft blue letters, was the name, Second Chance. Toma touched the name with his hand and smiled. He had spent every day working on it, welding, fixing, shaping, with Lena right beside him. She wasn't just someone giving advice from a chair. She worked with her hands, learned how to tighten bolts, and sometimes even got her coat dirty. They laughed, argued, learned, and dreamed, together. For the first time in a long time, Toma felt something he hadn't felt before. Not just hope, belonging. Lena walked into the hangar with a tablet in hand. She wore her usual long coat, but now with a tool belt around her waist. Her eyes lit up as she saw the ship. "You finished the engine wiring," she said with a grin. "Last bolt tightened this morning," Toma replied. They stood together, side by side, looking at the ship they had created. "Tomorrow's the test flight," she said. "Are you ready?" Toma looked thoughtful. "I think I've been ready my whole life. I just didn't know when it would happen." Lena looked at him carefully. "You know, you could stay on Avonfor. Use your name now. People respect you. They saw what you did during the fire." Toma shook his head slowly. "I don't want respect because of that. I want to go out there and build something more. See the planets. Learn. Fly. I've fixed other people's dreams for years. It's time I fly my own." She smiled. "I thought you'd say that. Will you come with me?" He asked. She paused. Then nodded. "Not forever. My work is still here, but for now, yes. I want to see what you see." Toma smiled. "Then let's go find out what's out there." The next day, the hangar was opened. A small group gathered, some old friends from the docks, a few workers, even Maiko. They stood at a distance, waving and cheering quietly. Toma was in the pilot's seat, helmet ready. Lena sat beside him, co-pilot for the first time. The ship's control panel lit up. "Engines online," Toma said, his voice calm but excited. Lena glanced at him. "This is it." "Yeah," he replied. "This is really it." The engines rumbled to life. Dust lifted from the floor as the ship hovered. Slowly, it rose into the air, above the hangar, above the buildings, and into the sky. People on the ground clapped and cheered. From above, Avonfor looked small. The towers like toy blocks. The docks like little puzzle pieces. The sky opened in every direction. Toma reached forward and pressed a small switch. "Activating main thrusters," he said. The ship leapt forward, smooth and strong. As they passed through the clouds, Lena looked out the window. Do you remember how it all started? She asked. Toma laughed. I sat at the wrong table on a blind date. She smiled. And you never ran away. Even when things got hard. I think I found something more than I ever expected, he said. Not just a ship or a chance. I found you. Lena reached out and held his hand for a moment. No more wrong tables, she said. Only right choices. Hours passed. The ship flew smoothly, moving between stars and silent skies. They visited a small moon station, bought fuel, and helped a stranded miner restart her ship. Toma fixed her engine with ease. Lena shared stories about trade and peacekeeping. Everywhere they went, they saw life, messy, beautiful, different, and both of them knew they had made the right choice. They were explorers, now partners. Not by luck, but by choice. One night, far above any planet, the two of them sat in the ship's front window, watching a meteor shower. I used to think people like me were meant to stay on the ground, Toma said softly. Fixing ships, watching others fly. And now? Lena asked. Now I know, he said. We all have the sky inside us. We just need someone to remind us it's there. Lena looked at him with gentle eyes. I'm glad you sat at my table, Toma. He smiled. Me too. And so the stars welcomed them, not just as visitors, but as dreamers, builders, and believers. A boy from the lower docks, a girl from the top towers. Two different lives, one shared flight. Because sometimes sitting at the wrong table can lead to the right journey. And that journey was only just beginning.